All right. If I could please have your attention up here. Thank you. 4-8, concurrent lines. Okay, we spend today and tomorrow on it. So we'll be doing some of this packet tomorrow as well. And then I have one other page you'll be adding to your notes tomorrow. Okay, we're going to identify properties of perpendicular bisectors, angle bisectors, altitudes, and medians. So you'll notice these words right here, some of them you recognize, some of them you may not. Okay, I want you to tell your neighbors which ones you recognize and which ones you don't. How many of you know what a perpendicular bisector is? How about an angle bisector? How about a median? Okay, median of a triangle. Okay, so median is like, what's it mean? Diamond? Yeah, the middle. Okay, like the median on the freeway is that area, that grassy area in between the freeway there. That's your median. Okay, the median. How about altitude? An altitude of a triangle. Anyone know what altitude means? Yeah?
Isn't it like how high you're going?
Yeah. Good. It's like your height. And we measure height in a triangle with a right angle. So we're going to construct all of those, or we're going to make all of those. So during our work today, not only will we define these if you don't know them, because those are the things we're going to be dealing with in the triangles, but we're also going to define concurrent, point of concurrency, angle bisector, well, these are the other ones, okay? Concurrent and point of concurrency. So you don't really need to, I mean, you can write these down if you want. You don't really need to have them down. You're going to add them to your notes. So the packet you picked up on the way in has triangles in it. You're going to take and cut some of these triangles out. Now, before you get all terry with it, you start tearing things apart here, okay? Let me explain. You have this packet, okay? Notice the first page is triangles on both sides, kind of like the ones I handed you yesterday, and nothing on the back. You're going to take off that first page. Okay? Now, just for the sake of making sure that we understand what's going on, the second page looks exactly the same as the first. Triangles on the front, nothing on the back. We're going to take off that second page. Now you have a third page, and it almost feels like you just keep tearing and you keep having more and more triangles. Now you'll notice these triangles look really similar, but at the top there are some headings. There's angle bisector, and there's perpendicular bisector. Angle and perpendicular. This is your note page. Okay? This page is your note page. You're going to do notes on angle bisectors of a right, an obtuse, and a acute triangle. And you're going to be doing notes on perpendicular bisector of right, obtuse, and acute. I would not separate that page. I would leave that one attached. And then if you turn that one over, on the back of that page, you'll notice, looks like the same triangles. They are. You have a right, obtuse, and acute, but now it says altitudes. And then you have medians for right, obtuse, and acute. This will be your note page. This is where your notes will end up. Yes? You got 2 packets?
Yeah.
All right. Well, you can put one back later. That's okay. Okay. Yes?
So on the first two, you can cut all the triangles.
We're not going to do that yet. Let me keep going through the packet. Bethany, you like to get past it and be ready to go. That's okay. Yeah, I know. Well, I have a plan, okay? I promise you. So, the next page, taking a look at it, there are some questions after you complete each of your sketches. So the sketches you're going to do are on your note page, on these pages. So after we complete this, we're going in this order. You're going to answer these questions. For which triangle does the point of concurrency lie on the edge of the triangle, or the legs of the triangle? For which triangle does the point of concurrency lie on the outside of the triangle? And number 3, one of the points of concurrency is also a triangle's center of gravity. Which point of concurrency do you think is the center of gravity, and why do you think that? It may help you to rule out the other points in explaining why. And then we'll eventually, and we'll probably do this tomorrow, we'll use a compass to make an inscribed circle in a triangle, to actually construct an inscribed circle. Okay? Now we'll turn it over. The next page. we will use a compass to make a circumscribed circle of the triangle. Inscribed inside, circumscribed outside. Okay? Using perpendicular bisectors. And then turn the page. So both of those triangle constructions will be tomorrow. This most likely will be your homework today. Okay? Or it might be tomorrow. We'll see how far we get today. I don't know if it will be. I'll let you know at the end of class though. Okay? All right. Any questions? Neato burrito. Okay. So here we go. We have our note page just sitting off to the side. So let's sit it off to the side. And you now, Bethany, you now can take one sheet of triangles. The other sheet you're not going to cut up yet. You're just going to set it like nice and safe, maybe under your packet so you don't get confused. You're going to cut out all 6 triangles right now. All 6. Be really, really good cutters, please. Okay, you're going to take your triangles now, and using folding, now pay attention. You guys, before you fold, make sure you understand how you're folding. Otherwise, you're going to get very frustrated. And use a pencil when you're doing your tracing here. It says, use folding to create all angle bisectors for each type of triangle. So that means for all 3 types. What are the 3 types you have? Okay, right, obtuse, acute. Right, obtuse, acute. Okay? So, trace the angle bisector of each in pencil on the back of these triangles. Write angle bisector. And then draw the angle bisector and the point of concurrency on your note sheet, which we'll do here in a minute. So let's take it step by step. Let's do the folding first. Use folding. So what we need to do is we need to take one of our triangles and we need to create an angle bisector for it. I want to make sure I have my correct one here. Now, this is one of my triangles. I got my acute one. Okay? I will usually start with my acute one. This is my acute triangle. Now, I've already completed this one. So that's what it ends up being. But the way you do this, just like it's shown here, is you take one of your sides. If you take your acute triangle, you take one of the sides and lie it over to the other side. You fold it so that the other side matches that side. Okay, so if you're here, you take and fold it so that 2 sides, trying to see if this shows up okay, but 2 sides fold and match perfectly, so you're cutting that angle in half. Okay, so then when you're done, it looks like that. It does not mean that they'll lie perfectly on top like the other angles will match up. Exactly. Okay, let me flip this over. Doesn't mean that. It just means that when you fold this angle, you're cutting it in half. And then if I take and turn it, when I fold this angle, I'm folding it so that it cuts it in half. Okay, notice that the other angles do not match up on that when I do that. Okay, and when you're done doing all the folding, you take all 3 angles and you fold it in half. Okay, when you do that, you should have 3 lines that match up at a specific point. So you'll trace those lines and see where they match up. Okay, and you can kind of almost, like if I do a little pyramid there, you can kind of see where my lines match up on the other side. But what you'll do is you're going to trace those angle bisectors in pencil to see where they match up. Okay? I'll leave that there for you guys.
Do you have it folded in half? Or do you fold it?
Not folding in half. It's cutting your angle in half.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? So the angle you're trying to do the bisector for, you are taking and touching side to side from that angle. Okay, it does not mean your other angles are going to match up. So when I do this one, it doesn't mean these other 2 are going to match up perfectly at that end. It's just that this angle up here is getting folded in half.
So then where you do the angle parts, you then trace it there?
Yep. So then you're going to trace your creases that you had, and they should come together at a common point. All right? Okay, let me walk around and kind of help out the best we can, or best I can there. Okay, so like I said, once you're done with your acute, try your obtuse. Okay, just folding each angle in half, creasing, go to this angle, fold it in half. Okay, notice, and then rotate it and do this angle, just fold it in half. Then you'll trace your different lines. Trace here your crease, there your crease, and see where they match up. And make sure you're labeling the back, angle bisector. All right, so you've got to do it for each of them, right? So I've got my right triangle. I fold it so that the angle gets cut in half. And then once again, fold it so the angle gets cut in half. And then rotate and fold it so that the angle gets cut in half. Okay. So then you're tracing your lines. If you haven't traced these lines yet, make sure you're tracing them out. Tracing where that crease is in your triangle. And the place where all three of those lines come together, that's called your point of concurrency. So for my angle bisector in a right triangle, my point of concurrency is right there. Okay, so angle bisector. Okay, I've traced my angle bisector from each angle. So if you're looking at your triangles right now, you're going, man, my lines aren't coming from the angles. That's not good. Okay, they've got to be coming out of the angles. Otherwise, maybe you did medians, like middle of lines. Okay, medians would be your midpoints on the sides, but angle bisectors. Okay, after you get that done, what I want you to do is I want you to take your note page, or that page where you had your different titles on it. You're going to find the one that says angle bisector at the top. Okay, and you are going to take your right triangle. That's your first one, and you'll notice here I've got it there. Now I've seen students do this in multiple ways. I've seen the most successful way is students just lying the right triangle on top of the other one and then just marking where it goes to. So it goes from that angle to that point right there. And it goes from that angle to that point right there. Okay, so they just do a quick marking on there. And then they pull it off and take a straight edge and draw in that line, that angle bisector. So now they have that mark, they have their angle, they take their straight edge and just kind of sketch it in. That seems to have been the most successful way. Now, I'm not saying there aren't other ways, but that seems to be the less stressful way. They come together at a common point. Maybe in your notes you label that point of concurrency. Okay. And then since you did angle bisectors, you know a few other things here. You know that. What do we know about this and this? Yeah, they're congruent. So I want you to mark all congruent parts here. Okay? Mark all congruent portions. So go ahead and do that on each of those triangles now. Guys, this is a good thing to point out. Some of you will have this problem as well. When you do your folding and your tracing, sometimes maybe the folding's off just a bit and doesn't come out just perfect, so there's a little gap in there where you would want them to intersect. Just kind of estimate at that point, okay? Just put a little dot there in the middle and we'll call it good there for our note purposes. Okay, it's been asked a few times what we actually know here. We know that. Really all we really need to mark on these, angle bisectors, right? So let's just mark the bisecting portions here. Okay. I've seen some of you mark these right here, this one congruent to that because of vertical angles. I'm not too concerned about that, but definitely the angle bisector piece. Okay. How many need more time to do their notes on that? Okay, I'll give you guys a few more minutes and move on. There, okay? So the next piece, perpendicular bisector. We're going to take our three other triangles, okay? So we're going to be constructing the perpendicular bisector now. So hopefully you have this whole side filled out. For those of you that don't, it should, or even if you want to check your work, it should look something like that. Okay, your points of concurrency. So we had the one that we had zoomed in on. There's the other. There's the obtuse. And there's our acute. Okay. All right. Don't know what these markings are. This was a student's paper, but it should be here. Okay. And nothing here. This should be erased. Can I borrow your eraser? Thank you. Erase these. Oh, those aren't going to erase. All right, well, maybe that's why they're still. I'm going to get picky with it. There we go. Okay. All right. Let's move on. Next one, perpendicular bisector. So, perpendicular bisector, tell your neighbor what that is. All right, here we go. Perpendicular bisector bisects a side. That means it cuts it in half. So if I'm taking my right triangle, back here and go, set this aside. If I take my right triangle, so everyone grab your right triangle, and we are trying to find the perpendicular bisector of a side. Now some of you did this on your last one. You were actually just folding the side in half. You were touching angle to angle. You're like, okay, there we go. And that wasn't quite right for an angle bisector, but for a perpendicular bisector, that's perfect. You're just taking and folding a side perfectly in half. Okay, so you're going from angle and you're folding it over to touch the other angle. And then you do that for the other side. So you go take your right angle, fold it over, and touch the other angle. Okay, and voila. Okay, but you're going to unfold it each time, right? And then you're going to take your last angle, fold it over, and touch the other. I mean, if you folded it all together, it would look like that. It would look like a little tanagram piece. Okay. Now in this case, when we're done with this one, a perpendicular bisector, the point of concurrency, like if we trace all of these, everyone trace all three of your lines there. See where they come out to. Make sure you label that back perpendicular bisector as well. Point of concurrency on that one, let's see, everyone gets something that looks like that there. It shows up right on the edge. Okay, so you trace it, and trace it. Make sure you put your right angle and your side markings because this side is congruent to that. That one's not the same, so we got to use 3 marks there, maybe 1 mark here. You get that?
No, it's off.
Oh, well that's okay. It's just barely off. Okay, go ahead and trace that one onto your note page. All right, now I want you to try that right now with your obtuse one when you're done. Obtuse one's really weird on this one, so give it a go on the obtuse. The obtuse. Make sure you label the back for it once you're done. So I've already got mine traced on there, but going angle to angle, touch them and crease. Angle to angle, touch them and crease. And then angle to angle, touch it and crease. Just change the title. That's okay. Just put the titles on that page. Here, you're going to need the back part. So there. All right. So do we see a point of concurrency actually on there?
Yeah.
No, it's not there, right? But what we're going to do is we're still going to trace that onto our note page. Okay. So in fact, I'm going to trace it on there. Okay, for that one, let me just kind of focus in on that. Okay. So now as some of you can see on there, once you get it onto your page, those lines look like they are going out to a specific point somewhere in space. Right? If you just keep extending those lines, okay, you extend those lines out, eventually you would hit a common point. All right, so I'll keep extending mine out there. Kind of out like so, and there, and right, oops, ooh, we're slipping there, there we go, right, come on, there we go, keeps moving, right about there. So mine didn't quite hit exact, oops. Didn't quite hit exactly, so I'm going to estimate it right about there is my point of concurrence. It doesn't help that I'm moving onto a separate sheet as I'm doing it. Got it. So the point of concurrency on this one lies outside. On your right triangle, lied on the actual edge of the triangle. Okay, give the acute one a shot. Okay, get that one done. Okay, so you're out. Your acute triangle hopefully looks like this here. Notice, are my lines going from an angle? Not on any of these, right? So we have our right triangle folding side to side. We are finding the midpoint of that other side each time, but it's actually a perpendicular bisector. So when you're done, for your acute triangle, hopefully you have something that looks like that. Make sure you're marking, hey, this is a midpoint. It cuts this side in half, cuts this side in half, cuts this side in half, and it hits at a right angle. Okay? You should now have 3 triangles that show a perpendicular bisector on them. Okay? Is everyone with me? All right, 3 triangles, you have perpendicular bisectors on. You're going to use those triangles to do one more note page. Okay, so hopefully you've done all your notes now for perpendicular bisectors. The next note page we are going to do is called the midpoint, or the median. The median. So everyone take a look at and find the page that says median on it. Okay, so being in the next one, and that's the last one we'll do today, and then tomorrow we'll do the altitude, so we won't actually do any homework tonight or anything. Sorry, I know that's sad. So some of you are upset. Hey guys, you use these same triangles. Now these 3 triangles we just did, okay, those 3 are not medians. What are these things called? Perpendicular bisectors, okay? They don't go through angles. Medians go through angles, but they go to the exact same point. So a median works like this. If I'm actually taking, and I'm taking my right triangle, everyone take your right triangle, lie it where it says median here, and all I want you to do is mark off that midpoint on each side. Okay, so the only reason we're using this is because doing the perpendicular bisector, you actually find the midpoints, right? Now that's the last time I'll use that perpendicular bisector triangle. What a median goes from the angle opposite to that midpoint on the opposite side. So it goes out to the same point as the perpendicular bisector, to that midpoint, but it goes from the opposite angle. That's called your median. Median meaning middle. It's going from the opposite angle to the midpoint of the opposite side. And that's your point of concurrency. Now the markings we can do, we've made a midpoint, so that's congruent to that. That's congruent to that. And that's congruent to that. And make sure that as you're tracing these, you're getting the correct midpoint. So the midpoint of this side was there. The midpoint of this side and the midpoint of this side. And you're going from, once you get those midpoints, you're going from the opposite angle to that midpoint. Pretty neato, man. Those are called your medians. So make sure you do that for your acute triangle as well. We'll do the altitudes tomorrow. Some high altitude stuff tomorrow.
Are we keeping this?
The triangles you'll keep. Okay. I don't know that you'll use them much tomorrow, but you might when you're answering questions. So I'd hold on to them. Put them somewhere safe in your bag. The note card you'll need for the altitude, so I put a little hole in the note card so you can attach it to your folder. All right? And then I need all rulers put back and all scissors put back, please.